Hello and welcome to Dad Describes, where we discuss current issues of the day through the lens of a dad. So I know it's been a few days since the actual anniversary of 9/11, and I wanted to kind of stop and have a few more days to really reflect on what I went through on 9/11. So I do have some personal experiences to share. On the actual day of 9/11, I was working in Western Pennsylvania, and I was at work alone. I was in a service bay working on a customer's machine. He had some electrical problems, and I just went outside randomly, kind of catch my breath and see what the sun was doing or what the weather was like. And I remember as I walked outside, there was a plane in the sky that was way lower than planes normally are, and I can still recall the sound of the engines kind of screaming. It was odd. I thought it was odd at the time, and it was low enough to the ground that I could read the serial numbers off of the plane, which usually you don't see, and it was moving at a fairly good clip. I don't know how much time passed, but I moved on with what I was doing, and the customer that I was working on the item for actually stopped in, and he was like, "Hey, have you been listening to the news?" I was like, "No, I've been working on your machine here." And he's like, "Well, we're under attack. There's planes exploding in the buildings." He's like, "I think the Pentagon has been hit. I think, the World Trade Center has had planes fly into it." And he just kind of left. And I was left with some time to, go turn on the radio and figure out what was going on. I didn't really think about that plane again for a while. Later on, I would hear about the crash in Shanksville and would never really, it wasn't on the forefront of my mind until I saw pictures of the plane looking exactly like what I had seen fly over the building I was at. And it was odd. Gave me a very uneasy feeling. Do I think it was actually the plane? My gut tells me it was. I've talked to a number of people in the area that also have seen it over the years. A year or so later, I was working out of the Pittsburgh International Airport and had the opportunity to go through and have some meetings with the FAA and have access to the flight control tower at Pittsburgh International. Got a decent tour of it, and part of talking with the air traffic controllers, I got to actually see they put up a replay of the track of that airplane. I was doing some work with Homeland Security, so it kind of tied in with that and with what I was doing. And sure enough, the track of the plane zooming in was right over where I was at. Again, do I 100% sure know that it was the plane? No, I don't, and I'll never know. I didn't keep a track of the times, when during the day that happened. While I could see the serial number over it, it all happened so fast that it's not like it's something that's glued in my mind, other than, how the plane looked and the sound of it was what really stands out. Around the same time, there was the anniversary, and I was at the airport, and it's just this, I look up, and there's this woman in front of me wearing on her shoulder a ribbon with a picture in the middle of it. It's kind of odd. You don't really see people in crowds wearing a ribbon with somebody's face on it. And I kind of focused in on the picture and didn't really, look at her. And as I'm kind of looking at the picture, out of the peripheral of my eye, I can see just maybe a few dozen people behind her, all wearing the same ribbon, all with different faces on them. And it kind of clicked into me, yeah, the memorial service just happened over in Shanksville, and these people are at the airport heading home. And these are the family members of the people that were on the plane that crashed, the people that decided to fight back. They knew that bad things were happening, that these planes were crashing, and that if they wanted a chance to survive, they had to fight back. So I'm looking at this picture, and I just kind of I recognize the face on it. I've seen it on TV, and as I kind of pull back from the picture and look up at the woman standing in front of me, I recognize her face too. And I've seen her on television a number of times, and it just, it really hit me. Oh my goodness, I know her. I know who she is. This is somebody that's lost everything. And man, I just broke down in tears and started crying. And as I'm standing there crying, she says the strangest thing to me. She says, "Thank you." And she throws her arms around me and is hugging me as I'm crying. And she's comforting me. This woman that's lost her spouse. And she's crying. And as I kind of look up and wipe the tears out of my eye, I notice that, there's just people all around. And these survivors are hugging everybody, because everybody there is, there's not a dry eye in the place. Just, maybe 50, 60 people all around in the airport, just kind of collectively at the same time, are comforting each other as Americans, as survivors. Did I tell her that I think I saw the plane? No, it happened so fast. I don't know if I could have explained that in the amount of time that I had to, meet this person. It's amazing how different our country is today compared to then. I think about that moment with all of these Americans. There were, it didn't matter what race you were, what religion, what gender. It was just people comforting people. It was the best of our character coming out in that moment. And as a nation, we were hurt and coming together. And it's so different from today, where this nation is going through this ordeal with 2020 and our elections. And people are just so mean to each other. Our country's going through a lot. And I think we need to seek out the best in each other. And I think we need to refrain from violence. And I think we need to have compassion and understanding and allow people to have opinions that are different than our own without making them out to be monsters. I think that the damage of 9/11 could have been much worse, but for a few people that were on that plane that were willing to do something about it. I think we owe it to them to hold our nation together, to really look at our values. I know there's a lot of people that would tell you that America is an evil, wicked place. And I think that we're all broken and we all have a tendency towards sin. I think this country's done some things in the past that it shouldn't be proud of, but we're working towards a better future with equality for all. That's the dream. There's lots of people in this world that are looking to tear down nations, tear down people, tear down hearts. we need to look to build and encourage this nation. That's the difference between politics and statesmanship and patriotism. Our country doesn't have to be perfect, but we can work towards it being more perfect. Thank you for watching Dad Describes. If you like this content, I encourage you to hit the like button, consider subscribing to support my work, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thanks. Bye.